It is Tuesday, October 26th, and there's a few brand new Nintendo Switch stories that have dropped that I want to share with you all today, starting with Triangle Strategy and a big overview trailer that we just got that has me more hyped for this game than ever. Then we also have to cover the overview trailer from Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl that went live today that shows us some new gameplay footage that has me very hyped for the November 19th release. And the big talking point for today's video is the launch of the Nintendo Switch Online Expansion Pack and why there are a lot of fans who are noticing major issues with the ROMs that Nintendo gave us, specifically on the N64 versions of the game. And I want to talk through the fan reaction and what Nintendo can potentially do to fix this major problem. What's up, Nation? If it's your first time on the channel, make sure you join Sunbro Nation by subscribing below. Hit the like button on this video if you enjoy it today, and make sure you turn on your bell notification icon so you're kept up to date with all the newest gaming news. Now, as I mentioned, guys, we're covering a few different stories today, and I do want to kick it off with Triangle Strategy. And I cannot stop saying Project Triangle Strategy. Like, literally in my intro of the video, I said that 5 or 6 times and had to cut it out of there. So apparently it is not called Project Triangle Strategy anymore, but Triangle Strategy now, as they dropped the name Project. But there's a new trailer that dropped today, and that's why it's in the news and why I want to talk about it. And it really does a good job of kind of positioning what this tactical style RPG is going to offer, and it does seem like it's going to be very heavily story driven, as they mention in this trailer how your decisions and the path and the actions that you take will actually affect elements in the game and how things play out, which does sound very cool. Then they also just showed a lot of the turn-based tactical style combat that it'll have to offer. There was actually a demo that came out for this game a while back. I did not end up being able to check that out, but fans that did absolutely loved it and have just had their anticipation levels for this game's release at maximum. And I personally will be very excited to check it out at release. I believe this is coming to both PC and Switch only. I will be picking this one up on the Switch, and you have to look at the graphical style that they actually achieved here with this pixel art style of game and the lighting effects. And I personally love this style of game because it's a nice nod to the SNES era style of games, but obviously you have crazy lighting and shadows and a bunch of different current day effects, and I just think that they meld together so perfectly. And this is obviously kind of more of a 3D or 2.5D layout than just a traditional 2D SNES style RPG. So this is of course a Square Enix game. It will be released on March 4th of 2022, and it's one that's absolutely on my radar for a day one pickup. So I would love to hear from you guys in the comments down below if you are planning on picking up this game. I will have the full new trailer linked in the description down below in case you guys do want to go ahead and check that out from start to finish for yourself. But I will definitely be picking this up, and I would love to hear your guys' thoughts and impressions, and definitely let me know if you were able to play the demo, what your initial gameplay impressions were of this, and what has you the most hyped for its release. Now, the next thing I want to share with you all today is a big update trailer that dropped around Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, because if you can believe it, we're actually going to see this game release on November 19th, and that's going to fastly approach us. Like, we're already quickly getting to the back half and end of October, and then we will just have roughly one more month to wait until this game actually drops on retail shelves and on the eShop, of course. So I personally am planning on picking up the Diamond version myself. I don't think I'm going to get the double pack because I did do that with Sword and Shield, and I literally never booted up Shield. I just completely played through Sword and never went back and actually hopped into Shield. So for me personally, while I am a huge Pokemon fan, I don't have to play like each version to get the full fulfillment of the game. I know there's a lot of hardcore Pokemon fans out there that will say that you have to play through both, but that's personally not where I fall. But this trailer did do a good job of getting me more hyped than ever, as when I first saw it unveiled, I initially was not the biggest fan of the kind of graphical presentation and character sprites. Like, it just looked really kiddie and cartoony. But you know, this is one of those things that the more that I've thought about it, I really enjoy playing through Link's Awakening, and it reminds me of that a little bit with the character sprites. But then they do a good job of showing off multiple sections of gameplay where you're battling gym leaders and, you know, your Pokemon are out on the field, and it doesn't look like that same type of art style. So I'm thinking overall now, I think I'm really going to enjoy the way that this game looks at the end of the day. I do think that they could have put in a little bit more work into it, but this is definitely a style of art that just appeals to certain gamers and not others. But I think the mechanics and the gameplay of these classics will be restored on the Switch and be well worth it. And we did previously get information around them doing a lot of quality of life improvements, such as you don't have to have your HM moves tied to a specific Pokemon, that you have to essentially have one Pokemon on your team that has all of those assigned, and he's basically there for just that, as now we will just be able to toggle the move when it is needed, whether that be fly or rock or surf or you name it. So it's going to be a nice little quality of life improvement there. XP share is one of the more more controversial ones because apparently that cannot be turned off in this game, and there's some strategy things that go along with XP share and how not all fans want it on the whole time. Personally, that will not bother me, but I do know that there's some hardcore players that play these games the first time on the DS that do not like to see certain mechanics like that change. So if you are one of those people, I would love to hear from you in the comments down below on your thoughts about the updates of these games overall. But you know, there is a couple other pieces of information that dropped, such as some early purchase gifts, such as a platinum style outfit, a free Pokemon that'll be included in there, and then of course 12 quick balls. So as we do get closer to this November 19th release, I am getting more and more hyped, and I would love to hear from you guys if you are planning on picking up either Brilliant Diamond or Shining Pearl at release, and if you'll just be picking up the single pack like I am, or if you're going to go ahead and get the double pack and actually play through both titles. So I do look forward to hearing from your guys' thoughts and opinions on all things Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Now, the big story I want to share with you guys today is one around Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack, as of course we did see this service go live late last night here in the US. I believe it was very early in the morning in the European and Japan regions, but I will tell you guys, this has a lot of people talking online immediately because some of these games are not running in the way that you would expect them to, especially when Nintendo has this asking price of a $50 annual subscription for an individual membership and $80 for their family plan. And a big thing that I'll dive into a little bit later is the lack of monthly subscription options, because of course we did not see them originally unveil those at the part of the trailer. Some people still thought we would have the monthly options. We officially do not. This is a annual only service, and you have to pay for the full year up front to be able to gain access to these titles. Now, to start off with the things that got a lot of people discussing this online, the first thing I saw pop up and talked about a lot was input lag, and that is people saying that it is noticeably more delayed than something like the original N64 or other ROMs that we've seen come to, of course, the Wii and Wii U Virtual Console. And I believe it was Game Explain's video that I watched that did officially confirm that there is a slightly longer delay by about 34 milliseconds. And now this is something that most consumers, like your average players out there, are not going to notice. But if you're a hardcore gamer, you've been gaming your whole life, you may notice a little bit of an input delay, but that's not the big issue to me. I don't think that 34 milliseconds from the original N64 is a make or break feature by any point. It still should be faster, I guess you could say, but it's not one of those game-breaking things that I think you're going to die against a boss in Ocarina of Time just because of that slight input delay, because that's roughly a few frames. It's not a actual big deal. Not saying they couldn't have done a better job with it. I just don't think that this is the bigger one to focus on, as there are a few big ones that I do think we need to talk about. And the next up that I would say that is a really big issue for a lot of players, at least it will be in my opinion, is the button mapping situation. Because the thing about this is, if you are not going to pick up the Nintendo 64 official Nintendo Switch controller, you are going to find yourself in some wonky situations with numerous games that utilize the C buttons, because how they have it mapped up on the baseline Switch Joy-Cons or your Pro controller is very different from how you would play it on an N64 controller. And the big issue that we're seeing is that unlike the SNES and NES, where you can remap like the A and B button right in the emulator, you cannot do that with these N64 games, and that will be problematic. Now, I am aware that there is a feature in the system settings of the Switch where you are able to remap your button controller layout, and that will work for certain scenarios, but there's one big caveat with that, because the way that Nintendo has this structure set up at the base level is that when you hit the ZR button, it will essentially let your face buttons, your A, B, X and Y, become all four of those C buttons, and so they expect you to hold down that ZR button to have access to those additional two buttons. So if you have any third-party controllers or USB N64 controllers that you were planning on using, that is essentially going to be unmappable to those C buttons natively, because they want you to hold down that ZR button to do it. And I'll actually have a link to Austin John Plays video that he does a very good job explaining numerous third-party N64 controllers and how they work, and some of the hiccups that you're going to have to go through to actually get the thing working right, because it's not as simple as a plug and play solution like we were hoping to see. The other issue about the button mapping happening in the system settings is then you kind of mix around all of your buttons when you're just trying to navigate the menu and things. So it's like, yes, that's a solution, but not really. They really should have included this button mapping mechanic to be far more open and accessible in the emulator app itself directly. And you know, you may say, well, Well, the solution is the N64 had obviously a very strange controller, so you're just going to have to go out and find one of those controllers. The issue with that is Nintendo has not mass produced these things enough to keep up with demand, and we're already seeing the scalpers take advantage of this situation and of course throw them online on eBay for more than double the cost, which of course we will see Nintendo catch up eventually and continue to support this controller. But if you're somebody that wants to enjoy these classic N64 games right now with the optimal control setup, you may not be able to do it. I was lucky enough to get my hands on one N64 controller wireless. They actually restocked again earlier today. I don't know if it happened yesterday also, but I know Nintendo tweeted out that they were in stock on their Nintendo online store earlier today, and again they sold out immediately. So you are now again in a position where you cannot take full advantage of the N64 experience when you were playing through these games because of how Nintendo has chosen to lock the button mapping to that layout of that classic controller. So will it help them sell more classic controllers? Probably, but if you weren't planning on picking one up at all and you just wanted to play it with your Joy-Cons or your Pro controller or whatever else you have around, or even a third-party N64 controller, it might not work how you were expecting it to work. And that is a big issue I am seeing a lot of people talk about online, and rightfully so, because I think I will hold off on actually booting up Ocarina of Time until I have that N64 controller in the mail, and hopefully it's this week. Nintendo likes to take their sweet time with shipping. They're definitely not like an Amazon Prime, so I think that it'll be this week according to my tracking number. We'll see if that happens or not, but that is another issue with this service when they are asking the dollar point that they are. Now from there we have to talk about the overall texture, animation quality, and different things that people are noticing online. Lack of fog being a big one. If you look at some side-by-side comparison footage, I will have a link to Game Explain's full comparison trailer in the description down below, where they compare the original N64 files that you would have played on the cartridges that was captured through a capture card to these Switch ROMs that are now running today. And a big talking point is like, if you look at the stages on Mario Kart 64, you can clearly see some shadow and fog effect that has been taken out now, and you can say that maybe makes the game look a little bit better in certain ways, but there's also a lot of games that actually were designed around that mechanic being in there, and so it's essentially affecting the draw distances and how things look on the games themselves. One big thing that popped out to me when I was looking at this stuff on Twitter was a tweet from Stop Skeletons from Fighting, and he compared the original N64 version of Ocarina of Time versus the Wii Virtual Console version and then versus the Switch. And while they all did have their own issues in different ways, there is a room in the water temple that clearly has its shadows and its reflective effects completely removed. No fog. The water doesn't look like water. It looks like a stable image. And so it is definitely, I think you can agree, a downgrade overall. That being said, there were a lot of issues with the Wii and Wii U versions of these games as well that are not just texture related, but like the Wii U Virtual Console, for example, had an entire shadow effect on the screen that made the games look darker, which is very undesirable in my opinion. So for the most part, I would say that these N64 ROMs do actually look better on the Switch, but there are definitely misses here where Nintendo just clearly didn't go in and put in the work to make them run successfully. And it also has, I believe, been revealed from data miners that they are using a base model emulator from what Mario 3D All-Stars used for Super Mario 64, and so you can argue that maybe they're going to update the stuff over time, make that emulator run better on the service. But here's my big problem with it: we don't have any guarantee from Nintendo that any of that stuff is going to happen. We don't have the best version of these games arguably on the Switch, and there's no monthly pricing tier to just go ahead and dip your toe in and try to find out if this is worth it to you or not. They are going to take all your money up front for an entire year and then expect you to just be okay with how they update the service, which by the way, we have no clear commitment from them on how many more N64 games they will add, when they will add them, and what kind of actual update schedule we will see them follow. As you know, the track record doesn't look great when you look back to things like NES and SNES on the Nintendo Switch Online update schedule. So that's kind of some of my concerns. You know, I really wish that they would have included those 1 and 3 month options just for people to be able to try out these games, because that's what I'm seeing a lot of online. Is I don't want to pay $50 for a service that I have no clue what the update schedule will look like and what other games I might see in the future, and I have no option to do that. So I really think that this is a misstep for Nintendo. I am a pro Nintendo guy on this channel. I typically back up a lot of their decisions because I have nostalgia for the game. I bought this service. I did pay the exorbitant price. I did figure out a little workaround by sharing it with some family members and friends, so I got the cost down for myself quite a bit, and I would recommend you guys, if you are going to pay anything towards this, to do it that that way so you can save some of your own costs, but that's still not an excuse for how Nintendo is marketing this at the end of the day and what they're continuing to charge from it. The problem with this is all of this talk online is my opinion. I know it's a lot of Nintendo fans' opinion, but Nintendo is very unlikely to change the course with this service. I think they're going to stick firm at this price. I think they're going to continue, hopefully with more frequent updates, and maybe they will hear some of this fan backlash and actually fix some glitches in the ROMs and fix some of these performance issues that people are noticing. And from there we may have some updates down the line that do ultimately fix this service, most namely also online play, because people who are playing online with their friends, which is the big draw for some of these N64 games, is of course still peer-to-peer, and they have a lot of lag issues more often than not. So at this point in the video, guys, I want to know all your thoughts and opinions on all things Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack so far. Are you disappointed with the quality of the ROMs? Have you noticed any of the issues that people have been talking about online in your own personal playthrough experience? Or are you more on the camp that, you're happy with your $50 purchase for the annual subscription? You don't really think that this is as big of a deal as people are making it out to be? Because I love to hear from both people on each side of the fence. So there's no wrong answers here. Share all your thoughts and feelings around all things Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack in the comments down below before you leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around these topics. Thanks so much for watching the video today, everyone. I do truly appreciate you all sticking around until the end. I do at this point in the video want to invite you all one more time to join Sunbro Nation if you haven't done so already. Do so by subscribing below, hit the like button on your way out if you enjoyed it today, and make sure you turn on your bell notification icon so you're kept up to date with all the newest gaming news. That's going to do it for me, guys. I hope you all have a great day. Sunbro Nation, out.